In this video, we will dive into the movie Dr. Seuss How the Grinch Stole Christmas. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie production details and box office performance. Finally, we will provide the reviews and personal reactions. Let's begin. The Grinch who stole Christmas has a reason for growing up to be so bitter. As a child, he was picked on for being green and having hair all over his body and a beard. Show me the child who would not pick up on such a classmate, and I will show you your baby Jesus. But if Dr. Seuss How the Grinch Stole Christmas had only worked on that angle some more, had drummed up a little more sympathy for the Grinch, maybe we would not want to pick up him too. This is a movie that devotes enormous resources to the mistaken belief that children and their parents want to see a dang, eerie, weird movie about a sore creature who lives in top of a mountain of garbage. Scares children, is mean to his dog, and steals everyone Christmas presents. Yes, there's a happy ending and even a saintly little girl who believes the Grinch may not all be bad, but there's not much happiness before the ending, and the little girl is more of a plot device than a character. The Grinch is played by Jim Carrey, who works as hard as an actor has ever worked in a movie too small a whale. He leaps, he trembles, he contorts, he sneers, he grimaces, he taunts, and he flies through the air and tunnels through the garbage mountains. He gets stuck in chimneys and blow up in explosion and all the time. Well, he is not Jim Carrey after John Travolta and Robin Williams were paid many millions to appear inside unrecognizable makeup in Battlefield Earth and Bicentennial Man, respectively. Did it occur to you anymore that when audiences go to a movie with a big star, they buy their tickets in the hopes of being able to see that star? Carrie has hidden behind invented face before in The Mask, for example, but his Grinch with the big snout nose and Mr. Hyde hairdo looks more like a preserved wolfman than the hero of a comedy. The movie uses gigantic sets, lots of special effects, and trick photography to create Whoville, which is inside a snowflake, and where all the Who lives in merry jollity preparing for Christmas. The Grinch lives in a cave on the garbage mountain that towers over the towers, brooding and garnishing and remembering old wounds and children's hearts. Eventually, the happiness blue is so unravel to him that he descends on the town and steals all the Christmas presents. And only the touching faith of little Lady Lou, who played by Taylor Momsen, redeems him. But the journal outlines of the story, expanded here, will be familiar from Dr. Seuss' book. What is strange is how the inspiration of his drawing has been expanded almost grotesquely into a word so unattractive and menacing. Red is the dominant color in the plate, not Santa red, but a kind of grungy, brownish red, so much of it we yearned to slake our eyes on screen are blue. The film is shot through a subtle filter that just slightly blurs everything, and the result is not cheerful. All of the characters, as I mentioned, have noses that look like astrophyte upturned pig snout, which is nice if you like astrophyte upturned pig snout, but not if you don't. The balance is off. There should be more scene establishing sympathy from the Grinch, favor scene establishing his meanness, more scenes to make the townspeople seem interesting, a jollier production design, and a brighter look overall. I'm not a mind reader and cannot be sure, but I think a lot of children are going to look at this movie with perplexity and distaste. It is not much fun. Adults may appreciate Carrie's remarkable performance in an intellectual sort of way and give him points for what was obviously a supreme effort, but the Screenplay doesn't give the Grinch any help. Of course, I may be wrong, as the Grinch himself observed. One man's toxic sludge is another man's potpourri, or vice versa. I am afraid. The review of the movie How the Grinch Stole Christmas 2000. Ever since I started this, I wanted to try our different review formats. This range from long to short reviews from impression and even a manga review. While game reviews and more importantly are probably going to stay in focus for me personally on Indector. I'd like to try the occasional add one here and there with a book, show or like in the case a movie review. Today I wanted to talk about one of my favorite Christmas movie, Dr. Seuss How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which is released in 2000. The movie is about the Grinch who lives just outside of Whoville on a remote trash mountain and who hates Christmas. While the Who's are fully of anticipation for the upcoming Christmas holiday, the Grinch is out for revenge instead. Starring Jim Carrey, Taylor Momsen, and Joffrey Tambor among their. This is basically the Dr. Seuss book turned into a full movie. The rhymes and sentences from the children's books got adapted into the movie well, although slightly changed at times, while story elements like Cindy Lou, who being turned into the main character, have been changed to make up for the short sources material. All in all, I feel like it's a good adaptation, although it struggle here and there to make full use of the concepts and ideas it touches on. The narrator Anthony Hopkins initiates the story with the words, "Inside a snowflake like the one on your sleeves, there happened a story you must see to believe." The Who's are a jolly kind of seemingly pig-snouted people that lives in Whoville and are eager to celebrate their favorite holiday. Marching with a band and warming into the stores, everything seems to bring with life and joy. The only one who questions the mass of presents that people are buying in Cindy Lou, who a young who that not only likes Christmas but also ends up asking the important questions. As time goes on, she begins to question whether the Grinch is truly mean and evil and if there's more to the story. As we find out, the Grinch was raised like any other child but always seems different. Hating Christmas and having a beard at the age of 8, being the target of bullying scared him for life, which is why he now spends his time in solitude with his dog Max on a garbage mountain, dreading the upcoming 1000th Wobulation. Jim Carrey is truly shining in his role as the Grinch, bring the titular character to life. He is taunting and sneaking, sneering and snorting, daddling the day of Christmas, and really seems to be this mean spirited mind that just seems to be there to ruin other people's days. All of this is directed well, and while I love his acting and the expression that Carey is able to pull off, I am not entirely sure if it really was that important to focus more on his damner. I get it, the Grinch is supposed to be this bad green guy living alone while everyone seems jolly and cheerful in the city. The contrast is established well and it works, but as time goes on, I would have loved to see some change. Instead, the movie focuses on the mean parts of the Grinch and his backstory whenever they show the Grinch, but the Grinch doesn't get all the much screen time to really add depth to the character. Most of the movie, after all, revolves around the Who's and most importantly, Cindy. While she is admirable in her role and always curious about people's intentions and feelings, I just feel like the movie has not done enough with its characters. Cindy feels like more of a plot device than an actual figure in a story, let alone the main character. The Who's of while adults and children alike are all dazzled and charmed by Christmas anticipation. They all just follow tradition and follow their leader. The antagonist of the story, played by Joffrey Tambor, nothing seems to change. Everything is the same and it's get boring. The characters of the story should not be as tolerant with the status quo. If I was a Who and if I was looking forward to the big day like that, I'd want to make it the best Christmas ever. I'd want to make it even better than before. The only Christmas with intentions like that is Cindy, who joyfully nominates the Grinch as the cheer master for the 1000th Wobulation, the Odyssey. I like it. While it's an interesting twist in the story, it seems as if Candy is only there so that the story can move forward. Without Cindy, the Grinch would not have come down over Christmas. Without Cindy goodwill and intentions, the Grinch would not have been driven to the point where he'd steal the Christmas presents. Without Cindy, the Who's is Whoville would not have understood that Christmas is not all about parents and spending money, but rather about spending a great holiday with the people you love and appreciate. Cindy is a great character, don't get me wrong, and Taylor Momsen did a great job bringing life to this big snotted girl. But there could have been more. There could have been a change in the people at an earlier time in the movie. When the Grinch family arrived to get his award, the Who's are frightened by his appearances and his manners. But all of a sudden, they just flick the switch and they accept that he is just as much a who everyone else. Being a kids movie, I understand that the gags and gimmick, the jokes and little sketches and all of that are important to fill out air. But I feel I like the movie and could have had so much more than just that. There could have been more change, more on the topics of what is Christmas about and what makes a good who. But instead, it's just false flat, adult will enjoy the occasional, and although a dark joke here and there that completely went over the head when I watched it ages ago. Kristan Bransky playing Martha May Hovier really adds a different flavor to the movie. But personally speaking, while I love the movie and the characters, I would have wished for more. I would have liked it if they went more in depth with how the Grinch, the titular character, feels and changes, but they ended up merely touching on it instead, leaving much to desire for boring people like me. The plot itself works. It's a great movie. It made me chuckle plenty of times, and occasional song here and there really made it all the more enjoyable. The word of the Who's and the Grinch is wonderfully Christmassy and glim and bright, but while red is one of the main colors, it's not as bright as shiny as Santa's clothes, but rather dark and moody, showing that there is more potential for this Christmas to become better and showing that there lies more under the wrapping paper and miscellaneous. All in all, great movie to watch with your loved one in this wonderful time, despite the criticism that I had at the depth of the topics and subject that the movie touches on. I'd really recommend it to you if you are still searching for a great movie to watch. It's a 20 years old at this point, sorry, 25 or 24 years old. Believe me or not, Miss Maggie has not seen it until last Saturday and she loved it to a bits. I have not really thought about how to write these reviews before. I would have thought that it works the same as the game review, where you start at one point, that writing, look into your notes, and just ending up and finishing up wise. Movie reviews are different as you need to be more aware of spoilers and what you can talk and cannot talk about. With Christmas movies, you basically know it's going to turn out anyway, so that's a different story. But personally speaking, I'm not entirely sure if my thoughts on it are not potentially too analytical or if they maybe even go too far into the anticipation. The Grinch Stole the Christmas is the 2000 movie and it was a hit Christmas movie. Inside a snowflake like the one on your sleeve, there happened a story you must see to believe. The whimsical quiet narrated by Sir Anthony Hopkins opened the world of How the Grinch Stole Christmas 2000, directed by Ron Howard and based on the beloved book by Dr. Seuss. The film brings to life the story of the Grinch, a Christmas loathing character who plans to steal Christmas itself from the cheerful views of Whoville. Since I am already in a festive mood this December, I decided to revisit this holiday classic and see how it holds up 24 years after its release. It's hard to believe it's been that long. I first watched this film when it was released and have rewatched it in a few times growing up, but before this viewing, it had been years since I had seen it last. What I appreciate most about the film is how it extends on the Grinch backstory. The book, published in 1957, doesn't elaborate and simple states he was a mean-spirited character. The movie dives deeper into the Grinch's hatred for chemistry, exploring his feeling of explosion and childhood bullying, which shaped his views on Christmas, adding emotional layer to the story and making the Grinch more relatable and sympathetic. Jim Carrey's portrayal of the mean green Grinch is what truly makes this film shine. His humor, facial expressions, and overall performance brought depth to the character, making it one of the most memorable roles in movie history. Meanwhile, Cindy Lou Who, plays by Taylor Momsen, plays a vital role in the story, bringing a childlike curiosity and compassion alongside a determination to understand the Grinch rather than fear him. She sets the tone for one of the film's key messages, kindness and acceptance. Her heartfelt interaction with the Grinch adds warmth to the movie, further enhancing its charm alongside her characters like Mayor Augustus Mayhew and Martha Mayhew further enhance the film. The mayor's arrogance and conflict with the Grinch create tension, while Maratha's flirtatious nature brings fun and humorous twists to the film's more serious moments. While there are some minor flaws in the pacing and some unresolved subplot, the film overall has a good balance of humor and meaningful messaging surrounding Christmas. Although it is marketed as a children's movie, adults will find plenty to enjoy from Jimmy Carrey's performance to clever jokes and subtle innuendos that children might miss. More recently, there was a 2018 animated version called The Grinch, which offered a fresh take on the story, focusing more on the Grinch's loneliness with suffer family friendly humor. The animated film does have its delight and magic, but it doesn't quite match the depth and humor of the 2000 live action film. Jim Carrey's portrayal of the Grinch remains iconic and can connect with audience today, but that doesn't mean one film is superior to the other. Both are equally as enjoyable in their own right. Beyond the screen, The Grinch has become a staple of the festive season with his presence as Universal Studios' Grinchmas, adding to his legacy, iconic image, and mischievous charm, making the film even more of a holiday tradition. 2 decades later, How the Grinch Stole Christmas remains a beloved holiday classic. It's a timeless humor, heartwarming theme, and Jim Carrey's memorable portrayal of the Grinch make it a must-watch for anyone looking to get into the festive spirit. Whether you are watching it for the first time or revisiting it for nostalgia, the film still captures the true essence of Christmas. Give him a Grinch and he'll make you smile. Jim Carrey's behavior will appeal to children and has lines will amuse their parents in the season's big holiday hit. December 2000, The Grinch Stole Christmas, Dick the Fairs with Broad of Holy Falala Christmas is here. But to ensure a longer cinematic life for the film version of Dr. Seuss' classic, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the seasonally specific part of the title has been jettisoned. The film, which has broken US box office record, is called simply The Grinch. As everyone knows, through until 3 days ago, I had quite forgotten the brief 1957 book takes 5 minutes to read and is about a great creature, a combination of Scrooge and the a rebel snowman who lives on a mountain above the jolly town of Whoville. A miserable ruse he takes to make their citizen miserable by stealing their Christmas presents, only to discover that they are even happier celebrating the festive season without them. There was a cartoon version of the story in the 1960s based on the original illustration, the words text beautifully spoken by Boris Karloff that even with added songs didn't last much more than 25 minutes. Ron Howard's film, scripted by Geoffrey Prince and Pete Asmins, the author of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and narrated by Anthony Hopkins, scratched it out to 105 minutes. They bullied up the character of Cindy Lou Who, the little kid who gets only a couple of lines in Seuss text. They provide a long flashback to motive the Grinch malevolence, and they give Jim Carrey his head and indeed every other part of his Antony in the title role. The result is both more complex and more acceptably politically correct. And the screen treatment while a cross between OZ and the Christmas grotto at Macy's is enthralled to mindless conceptual and approach to life challenged by idealistic Cindy Lou, a Sochrain Polana creature played by a little actress with front teeth like a mega lith carved off ivory. Her giant heart goes out to the outcast Grinch, and believing that the best is yet to be, she persuades the people of Whoville to select him as the Christmas cheermaster instead of the town's manor mayor. Seuss Grinch is a character of unmotivated malevolence. In the movie, we find that he was traumatically humiliated in childhood at Christmas time by time future mayor and went into exile up the mountain. Moreover, as the recipient and recycle of a wild refuse, he despises the town's gross materialism. He and Cindy are thus brought together like Beauty and the Beast as joint redeemers of the community. As she is a little young to provide romantic interest, he is paired off with Martha May Woovier, his childhood sweetheart. Fortunately, the real redemption in the film is provided by Cher's splendidly antisocial performance as the gleeful year-from Grinch going about his troublemaking ways, accompanied by his dog Max. Apart from Scorb and the Yeti, there's a touch of the cowardly line in his performance as well as something of the green-faced master of misrule he played in The Mask. He is an explosive bundle of mischievous energy. His behaviors will appeal to children, his lines will amuse their parents. When he fails to frighten little Candy, he growls, kids today dissatisfied by film and television. When a taxi fails to stop for him in Woline, he shoots after the cabbie. It's because I am green, isn't it? Justice is a decent enough family entertainment, but ultimately lacks a magical quality that could make it a perennial favorite. How the Grinch Stole Christmas is a 2000 live action movie. How the Grinch Stole Christmas is white movie. To be fair, the wonderful world of Dr. Seuss is built on its wildness with bizarre location, funny looking character, and nonsensical rhyming. It's what made his stories and art style to timeless in the decade they are inhabited elementary school libraries. But then along came Ron Hardware, the sixth son of a gun kicked the doors down at Universal Picture, snorted a fat line of coke on the CEO's desk, then shouted to the heavens, "The Grinch is going to eat Gilas and commit domestic terrorism." Universal then proceeds to cut him a check for $125 million. dollars. At least that's how I imagine it went down. So who is the Grinch? Why does he want to steal Christmas? How does one even steal a holiday? Do the who's down is while recognize Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior? To put it simply, Dr. Seuss' How the Grinch Stole Christmas is the story of the Retailer Grinch, an outcast who lives outside the small town of Whoville. Every year, the Who's town in Whoville put on a extravagant Christmas celebration, complete with feast, singing, and loud musical instruments. Every year, it drives the Grinch crazy, so one year he concocts a plan to steal their decorations, presents, and everything related to the holiday while they sleep. Assessed by his trusty dog Max and dressed as a discount Santa Claus, the Grinch successfully pulls off his holiday heist. When the Who's awaken, he expects to hear them cry out in sadness, but is surprised to still hear them singing. Shaken by the realization that Christmas is much more than decorations and gifts, the Grinch has a change of heart, turning the stolen goods and celebrating Christmas with the Who's for the first time. This was the original story created by Dr. Seuss in 1957, which was later adapted faithfully and wondrously into an animated television film with an iconic narration from the legendary Boris Karloff. This version of the story is so beloved and so perfect that it was hard to imagine how this story could be scratched into a features length film. Well, they did it, and there's a lot going on here. Let's start with the positive, with the biggest positive being Jim Carrey in his role as the retailer green creature. Jim Carrey is one of those actors that have the potential to elevate a film beyond what was to be expected. He did this earlier this year and Sonic the Hedgehog, turning a by the numbers kid film into something I enjoyed more than I anticipated. Carries does the same thing here, turning the sinisterly saw Grinch into a sassy, disgusting drama queen. His interruption is loud, bombastic, and ever quotable as any image of Carrie is completely hidden under the impressive makeup and costume work. Those elements are another positive as the design of the host and their little mobile are creative and fairly faithful to the show's art style. Not to mention the soundtrack can be quite fun at times with a fairly decent rendition of the classic You Are Mean one Mr. Grinch. Then there's the script. Holy hell, do they get away with a lot in the films? There's some swearing, some inordinate, and even a scene of a full on swingers party in full swing. These choices are so left field and jarring, but as an adult who like this kind of stuff, it's made rewatches since getting older all the more enjoyable. Not to mention that some of the writing is genuinely funny, carried in hand by Carey's sensitive deliveries and mannerism. The fact that this version of the Grinch has become a meme-like avatar for aging millennial in the past few years doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Despite these positive, my god, does this help give me a headache at times? Ron Howard must not have come down for that cock high from his barrage in the Universal offices. Because this film looked like it was shot by a madman, jarring camera movement and touch angle that would make Battlefield Earth blush parallel this film. It's very rare to see the camera sitting still for just a moment as it's constantly moving about to keep up with the manic antics of the character. And the noise. I get that this is the Who's thing, but it's too much energy and honestly put me on the cringe side most of the time. Everyone is shouting, there's a seldom a moment of calm or relax. The visuals, while creative, can be such an eyesore at times. The lights and the colors can be borderline seizure inducing sometimes, as I felt like I was salping into madness after staring at the screen for too long. I said I like the makeup done for the whole bearer, but I cannot deny there's something a bit unsettling about their look. Somehow Cindy Lou's who escaped looking like a dog man hybrid, which makes the theme they just look more hellish as they get older. Because this is an adaptation of kids' book that's only a few pages, there's a lot of padding in the script to make it hit that feature length runtime. There's an unnecessary love subplot, a basic origin story, and just a bit too much filler that ends up being grating at times. When the film sticks to its root, it works most of the time, but some of the extra story element just feel unneeded. I grew up with both the original television film and this film, and while I enjoy moments from the 200 adaptation, I am more partial to the television film. It's a short, concise, stylish, and timeless. While this film 100% feels like a product of its time, even though the film has me feeling like I am on a bad trip, how the Grinch Stole Christmas can still be a top of fun, maybe more so for older audience. I respect some of the decision made and realize that this is a film uniquely its own and at least took some chances in building upon Seuss' original version. Its message still rings true through the slapstick and dazzling visuals, and I can see why many consider it to be a holiday classic. As for the 2018 film The Grinch, I'd rather pretend it doesn't exist. The movie is directed by Ron Howard, produced by Brian Grazer and Ron Howard, screenplay by Geoffrey Prince, Peter S. Seaman, edited by Don Henley, Michael, cinematography by Donald Peterman, music by James Horner, and original song by Mariah Carey, James Horner, Will Jennings, performed by Faith Hill, starring Jim Carrey, Taylor Momsen, Jeffrey Tambor, Christine Baranski, Bill Edwin, Molly Shannon, Josh Ryan Evans, Clint Howard, Anthony Hopkins Wise. Based on the book by Dr. Seuss, year 2000. I'm not really certain what makes studio think that live action adaptation of things that belong in animation are good ideas. But if I had to make a guess, I'd say it because they make money. Obviously, that trumps Arthur's expression more often and than not, and that's how you end up with things like The Cat in the Hat starring Mike Myers. These movies are at least technical marvels with sufficient effort is put into them and environments is how the Grinch Stole Christmas are really quite incredible and well realized. The makeup effects are also mostly impressive too. That being said, I have only once ever seen a live action adaptation or extension of a property that I ended up liking more than the original, and that was this year's live action Cinderella. Still, there one exception, and none of this can overshadow the fact that Dr. Seuss' book was already perfectly adapted decades ago by Chuck Jones in the 26 minutes long 1967 animated TV special complete with a perfect look and tone, and best of all with absolutely zero filler to pad out the original book. The same cannot be said about Ron Howard's admirable but misguided adaptation. Originally marketed as simply The Grinch, the film follows the same basic premise of the source material with the titular character schooling himself as the top of Mr. Crumpet, looking down on the dances of Whoville with disdain and hatching a scheme to steal away Christmas from them out of spite for their loud holiday cheer. The film adaptation throws in a big of Citizen Kane by also expanding the role of the Cindy Lou Who character, who originally only had a small bit part encountering the Grinch during his Christmas raid. Formally no more than two, Cindy Lou, who here is much older, though still fairly young, and takes it upon herself to understand just why the Grinch hates the Who's and Christmas so much. She interviews the denizen of Whoville and learns about how the Grinch has shunned as a child were pretty much all, simply because he was different from them. Convinced that the Grinch could be redeemed, Cindy Lou, who takes it upon herself to fight back against the prejudices of Whoville and show the Grinch the true meaning of Christmas. I admit that I sometimes seem to waver between indifference and irritation regarding this expression of the story. On the other hand, I really don't feel as tough we really needed to know the traumatic childhood backstory of why the Grinch hates Christmas and those who celebrate it. On the other hand, I also emphasize with the need to expand the story. What they do here is an attempt at making the lesson more universal rather than simply having the Who's be perfect and selfless character. To focus on elaborate and plentiful gifts and caring less about togetherness, even with those who might hate them. The Grinch is still irritational in the extent of his vengeance against them, but in its attempt to balance the scales of morality and imbue tragedy and sympathy into the Grinch backstory, the film goes a little too far, resulting in the roles practically being reserved. This is less like the live action Cinderella, where Lady Termine insecurities are brought to the forefront to give reason of her cruelty, and more like Maleficent, where the originally evil character is instead revealed to be the true hero of the story that you thought you know. Apart from Cindy Lou, the majority of the hosts here are often internationally cruel from the being towards the cringe. He actually seems to want to be friends with them in spite of his distaste for Christmas. But he has to fight back his feelings of loneliness and remind himself about why he is still not hanging around there anymore. There are plenty of expositional scene Connery accent solitudes even when he goes give them and their holiday celebration a second chance and is reverted with more cruelty. The film unintentionally makes it look as though the Grinch actually doesn't need to learn any lessons at all. Instead, it has him delivering a big ranting speech out there, selfish and avarice. His words, not mine because of their persistence, is being mean. You actually want to see him exact his silly, pretty vengeance against the nasty who's that the Grinch is the most amusing character in the movie, thanks in large part to Jim Carrey's manic depression portrayal just reinforces the apathy toward him in the odd reversal of roles. Seriously, who's the real bad guy now? See what I did there? And that was to say, this climatic change of heart as the end loses some of its profitability when the most needed change is occurring with the character are more about the least. I don't hate the cringe, but I don't especially like it either. It was a damaged film when it first released, and it's a damaged film for me to review since I have so many mixed emotions toward it. For example, I don't like that everyone seems to think Jim Carrey was perfect for the role when I don't remember the perfect cast and perfectly sinister Boris Karloff from the animated special even having to deliver tried pop culture referential jokes about finding the right clothing for the occasional and checking his calendar to ensure his clothing of the who's didn't interfere with his jazzercise laser. Nor do I recall the Grinch ever being willing to take part in something like a potato sack race, which happens to be set to the theme of Crowd of Fire. Nor did I ever think he needed to be seen leaping in slow motion as he sets off a mushroom cloud explosion in the background. The film is far too hyperactive despite Anthony Hopkins delivering some calm, poetic narration throughout and yet a hyperactive. Jim Carrey is also what basically saves the movie from being a complete bore too. He is undoubtedly gets some good gags even when I think silliness is inappropriate for the character he is playing. I also really like Taylor Momsen as the adorable Cindy Lou who even though I really do hate the unnecessary and completely out of nowhere musical break the film takes for her to sing a new song that was included just so that they could also call on Faith Hill to do a pop ballad version of it to chart or billboard. I love the look of the film and admire the skill that went into the costume and makeup, but I really find it creepy at the Grinch is basically nude the whole time and seems to have an even thicker page of public hire on display for everyone to see. Could not they have made the thing a bit more constantly free rather than realistically hairy so as to distract from the crotch region and the sagging Grinch? As with a lot of animated to live action adaptation, and it borrows a lot from both the book and the animated special. I don't think we ever really needed this film, but there was still potential for it to be justifying adaptation that recaptures the magic of the original while still expanding upon the story's theme and character, both old and new, all by presenting it in an entirely new medium. The film has tragically seems to overshadow its animated forebear, and it seems as though most people now associate the word Grinch with the snarling, feeling Jim Carrey playing a character who is hiding his inner pain rather than a sneering, bitter monster than a standby who illustrated that even the scariest, meanest among us can turn things around for the better. This is not a bad movie, but I it's also not a good movie. And I don't think that the movie itself really knows that tragedy I was going on. It's the first place either. I really in a mess, but it might also be the best of the Douglas film adaptation from the past 15 years too. I guess it's also fitting that a meddling, messy film really deserves a meddling, messy review. Dr. Seuss, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the musical. It's been an unprecedented week of threaten for me, even during our pre-COVID when I was going out a lot of more I do these days. I don't believe I had seen these different productions during 3 consecutive days. I am including Hollywood's Lemius knew the color purple in that tally, along with my first viewing of The Lion King's Tony Award winning stage production in San Francisco. I just added to that tally with the touring production of Dr. Seuss' How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the musical, while both The Color Purple and The Lion King exceed my adaptation and in some ways made me love both stories even more. I didn't believe that would be the case with The Grinch. I am old school, loving only the original 1966 Chuck Jones animated short featuring Boris Karloff. I am not a fan of the Jim Carrey version from 2000 at all. In fact, I don't believe I sat through the entire thing. And while the 2017 animated version is a keeper, it's not mandatory viewing every year like that original is. I have already watched it once this holiday season and I may check it out again before I take my Christmas decoration down. And I keep a can of Who Hash hidden in the back of my cupboard just in case that I Grinch shows up. But I had had a rough couple of days just period to last night's show, so I decided to take my baby sister advice and check it out. I am glad I did. It was just the pick me up that I needed. Standout including Joshua Woody's over-the-top courage. He actually works appeal in this show. Brian Kodak Jones' very cutely captured young Max and Airline Bearer's Cindy Lou, who was adorable. You had to a Grinch to steal her Christmas tree. A couple of scenes were executed exceptionally well. The Grinch and Max take down Mount Corbett to Whoville was one of them, as were the beloved songs. You Are a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. Other songs added to the production didn't quite live up to that one, but it's a pretty high bar. The show itself is predictably funny and very family friendly and even included a rich, quiet, frightless story that seems to squish to allocate laughs from the little ones. It landed perfectly, as did the rest of the show. Speaking of kids, there were more children at the Safe Credit Union Performing Arts Center than I had ever seen there, and they all ate it up. During this show, I even snoozed during the final note that the 90-ish minute show is performed without an intermission, which was a great for whose aforementioned little ones. However, you might want to encourage grandpa to cut back on the pre-show sips or make a bathroom stop before the curtain goes up. I have often said that the little ones can lead us, whether it's the cute little girl sitting next to me with her mom, taking the show in with wide eyed wonder, or my own little sister who encouraged me to get off my duff and go to that show. I am glad that I can still see the work through a kid's eye, if only for a 90-minute stage production. The other night in the weekend theater, my heart grew at least a half a size. I was not in that bad mood going in. Dr. Seuss How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the musical, plays through Sunday, December 31 at the Safe Credit Union Performing Arts Center. The Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss, and the cast goes to Jim Carrey as the Grinch, Taylor Momsen as Cindy Lou, home release date is TBT, and director Ron Howard, distribution by Universal Picture. By the book in 1957, Theodore S. Diesel wrote How the Grinch Stole Christmas, a children's book about a restless Yule-loathing creature as green as a crab apple and twice as sure. Atop an icy mountain, the Grinch would pout and seethe at the jubilant inhabitant of Whoville below. A grinchly Christmas tradition, but one year the whistle, fair flowers, and roast beef all got to be too much for him, and the Grinch decided to invade Whoville as an anti-Santa bent on pilfering every sign and symbol of holiday cheer. Of course, it was the innocence of a child, little Cindy Lou, who was no more than two, and the non-commercial community of Whoville that pumped up the Grinch heart and turned that fuzzy Camaragorn into a roast beef carving party animal. On the tube, Dr. Seuss' tale was such a hit that it became a television special in 1966. The 30-minute classic, full of Geeze's signature illustration and a non-seashell rhythm, has become a seasonal family favorite along with Delph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty the Showman. The animated version was directed by Chuck Jones, whose 60-year career features countless Bugs Bunny and Tom and Jerry cartoons. Narrated by 1930 horror icon Boris Karloff, Frankenstein, The Mummy, and features castious songs such as You Are a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. Sung by Thurl Ravenscraft, probably best known as the voice of Tony the Tiger. Who didn't grow up watching The Grinch? Here is the United States. It has become an annual rite of passage as parents introduce their children to that creepy green dude whose heart grounds 10 sizes overnight and proves that no one is beyond redemption. The Grinch Goes Holiday, that built-in audience for a live-action Grinch, is one of the reasons studios have been wrangling for the film right for years. Universal won, and boy did it won. The Grinch earned 55 million opening weekend, rumored to have cost upwards of 120 million to produce. This lasted introduction of Dr. Seuss' time-honored tale spends more time expanding on the traditional story than actually telling it. The seemingly great familiar plot to undermine Christmas is Whoville serve as the final third of Ron Howard film. The first two thirds putter around Whoville explain how the Grinch blow into town and grow so bitter, and basically give Manor star Jim Carrey a chance to rant and rave beneath Hideout's makeup. In this version, Cindy Lou is more than two. In fact, she is closer to six, which allowed the filmmaker to expand her role so well. The result is a snaggered up mixture of nostalgia and modern pop culture reference set against a gaudy occasional creepy background. A younger belief the best of a social outcast, inspiring the residents of Pavilion to not only invite the Misery Grinch to their celebration, but to make him honorary cheermaster. Instead of simply bullying into local lore, Cindy Lou seeks to understand the nasty old Grinch. Her research revealed that childhood perception contributed to the creature's antisocial personality. When her kindness appears to have backfired, her faithful dad publicly expresses pride in her just the same. The Grinch change of heart reminds viewer that even the hardest heart can be redeemed by love. The Grinch reluctantly does the right thing by rescuing Cindy Lou from a frantic fate. The concluding message is that the real meaning of Christmas cannot be found in materialism, however. Despite Cindy Lou's search for the true meaning of Christmas, and she and the storyteller Mr. Hope Diamond and settle for a cubic zirconium, sure kindness and community are better than cold-hearted communalism, but that still misses the point, which is Jesus' birth. There is no mention of worship or church in this Christmas story. The one Fosier are all well and good, but once the hosts tire of joining hands around their enormous Christmas tree and singing in unison, the Christ child will have no place in their celebration. It's a sad opinion that has cheapened this otherwise noble story since the beginning. Many gigs involved packet shield and the movie The How the Grinch Stole Christmas, United States 2000. For more than 3 decades, How the Grinch Stole Christmas has been a holiday season television staple. The 22 minutes cartoon based on the book by Dr. Seuss and narrated by Boris Karloff has enhanced multiple generations of children, not to mention adults. And even with its already availability on video, it still draws a sizable viewing audience every time it's a broadcast. With the possible exception of the Peanuts Christmas special, no other seasonal program is as beloved and respected as this venerable classic. So, in deciding to transform it into a 90-minute live action motion picture director Ron Howard has taken a sizable risk. There are undoubtedly those who will view the movie as sacrilege of the most heinous kind. To Howard's credit, he was worked hard to keep the spirit of the animated Grinch intact, the text of the Dr. Seuss book in it in place. Although a great deal has been attempted to pad out the running time, in addition, the songs from the TV show have also been incorporated into the film, although the movie version of You Are Mean One, Mr. Grinch could have used a title list, leaving up the simple rendition in the cartoon is preferable. The bright, colorful set design impressive, effectively translating the happy helmet of Whoville from the cartoon world to the fancy reality one. Of course, one might legitimately ask why, if so much attention was being paid to replicating the animated look and feel in a live action medium. This movie was deemed necessary in the first place. The answer, of course, is money. How the Grinch Stole Christmas is likely to make a lot of it. That doesn't mean it's a bad film. In fact, it's a quite entertaining, but commercial, not creative or aesthetic consideration have brought it on the screen. The movie opens with nearly 1 hour of background material about the Grinch and Whoville that was not in either Zeus book or the TV special. We learn odd shots of interesting tactics designed to fill in exposed holes in Grinch lore, not that everyone really noticed. We come to understand why the Grinch hates Christmas. It has more to do with bad children experience than with a heart that too size too small. Why he has it for the mayor of a while and why little Cindy Lou, who finds his soft spot so easily, finally at about the film's two-third point, the narrative switches over to following the book letter for letter, and we get a strikingly faithful recreation of the cartoon. There is a difference in tone between the two portions of the film. The part that follows the book is smoother, has considerably more narration, and constantly rhyme, while the remainder has a trickle and feel. Children, however, will not notice, and the shift is not glaring enough that it will bother most adults, even those who have at through the TV special countless times. Of course, How the Grinch Stole Christmas' big selling point is not nostalgia or great production values. It's a Jim Carrey bright beneath Rick Baker's flexel makeup. He is a dead ringer for the cartoon creator, but although he is not physically recognizable, there's no doubt who is under all of the green latex and hair recently Carey has been working on developing a reputation as a serious actor, but in concern with me, myself, and Irene, how the Grinch Stole Christmas allows him to get back to the kind of antics that made him famous in the first place. His off the wall performance is reminiscent of what he accomplished in The Mask, a step that there he never allows the special effect to upstage him. Carrie's Grinch is a combination of Zeus' creation and Carrie's personality, with a voice that sounds far more like a white amalgamation of Sean Connery's and Jim Backup's than it does Karloff. The character to benefit the most from the Farron script is little Cindy Lou, who played by charming newcomer Taylor Momsen. Cindy becomes the Grinch advocate in Whoville, the only one who sees the goodness buried deep within. Like the three ghosts in Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, she represents the catalyst that transforms the cool-hearted Grinch from a scrooge into the holiday's biggest advocate and most devout celebrant. Momsen is wonderful in the part. She managed to be cute without being unsolvable, a difficult task for a young actress who probably got the job because she was more adorable than the other would be vying for the role. Aside from Carey and Momsen, the other actors don't leave an impression. Geoffrey Tambor plays the mayor of Whoville, a man whose drug against the Grinch goes back to what they were both 8 years old. Christine Baranski is the woman who has had a secret crush on the Grinch since before his self-imposed exile to Mount Crumpet. And Molly Shannon and Bill Lauren play Little Sandy Spirit. The narration is spoken by Anthony Hopkins, who uses his rich voice to set a non-threatening tone. How the Grinch Stole Christmas is a fable. It is designed to be funny and uplifting but never scary, no matter how frightening the title character might believe himself to be. Putting aside the question of whether the movie is necessary in the overall scheme of things, How the Grinch Stole Christmas represents a solid hour and a half of genuine family entertainment. Unlike most live action movie making a similar claim, there is no toilet humor. Apparently, Dr. Seuss' window had something to do with that, making this a refreshingly clean comedy for Carrie, whose cacked energy is released. This was just short of a tour de force. Last year he became Andy Kaufman. This year's it's the Grinch. He brings animation to the live action. The off-kilter world of Dr. Seuss comes to life on the big screen as Dr. Ron Howard tells the tale of the cramoutly recluse whose heart is too size too small. The Grinch resides in his cave high atop empty crumpet with his dog Max and plenty of castor oil and sour milk of sustenance annoyed by the out of control Christmas festives in Whoville. The Grinch conspires to destroy the Who's of their favorite holiday but comes to learn that the spirit of Christmas goes much deeper than tinsel and toys. In 1966, Dr. Seuss' classic picture book was transformed into an animated TV masterpiece by Warner Brothers cartoonic Chuck Jones. The seasonal fixture featured the amiable voice of Boris Karloff as the rhyming narrator and the title character. It still shows up today as a delightful family entertainment. Indeed, the part of Dr. Seuss carries out of for animation. I am not so sure, however, that all children's stories are best suited to live action theatrical length production. Watching Director Ron Howard's attempt to bring the Grinch to life, I kept thinking, looked at all the money, the sets, the costume, and the makeup. It had to cost a fortune, but just as money doesn't buy happiness, so I am told. Neither does it buy charm or class. Jim Carrey as the spiteful Grinch has some traffic moments and his rubber-like body in a cartoon itself, but it is difficult for him to roam around a film without spreading some corners here and there. It is reported that the window of Theodore Dr. Seuss Geisel exercised vote power over the script, ejecting many of the bathroom jokes. That's not the Seuss word, not at all, she said, but the 79 years old Mrs. Geisel didn't catch all of the objectionable material, and neither will the major portion of the audience. The film is aimed at little ones. At one point, Mary Makers are pictured through a snow outline window, portraying and replacing keys in a fastball. The joke is aimed at an old crowd familiar with the sexual game of couple at a party exchanging keys and going home and someone else's automobile and date. I suppose the outlandish of seeing Galilee's Whoville dabblers anticipating in such a hedonistic sexual game may be harmless, but it is also a vulgar and cheap game. Mr. Carey speaks a few other inappropriate jokes. Mr. Carey is a rude version of Jerry Lavish. He could have taken a lesson or two from Jack Lemmon's portrayal of a cartoonish villain in The Great Race. As the friendish Professor Fate, Lehman was found hysterical by little ones and grown ups and without greasiness. But those few outlandish pranks are not the film's biggest sins, it's simply non engaging. The little girl Cindy Lou, who has a moment where she has to warble a sentimental tune to help establish the plot. The scene is downright impressive. It's not just that she cannot sing, which the producer must have thought was cute, but you are sitting here not completing a sort that she is going to remember all the words. Her performance reminded me of a small town church Christmas production where parents sit anxiously in the pews, hoping little Billy or Susan will not suddenly go blank. Christine Baranski does well as a Wovline narrative secretly in love with the Grinch since they were students in grade school. Oh, you are right that she is fun as a cross between Marilyn Monroe and Jessica Rabbit, but her few residents of Wovline are given title to do other than act as if they were pop outs of a children's drawing book. Anthony Hopkins also does a nice job as the narrator, occasionally chiming in with actual Seuss words. But as a whole, the production is a plotted misfire where we too many jokes flat. Now, I am not suggesting that it will not make money. It is none of the few holiday films parent can take the kids to. Recently, I reviewed the 30-minute Karloff cartoon version of The Grinch Tale and preferred it in the Carey version. The producers are very careful to make Christmas all about family love or how Hollywood will have to love the crash out of the holiday name. In the animated version, the theme expresses the belief that peace doesn't come from possession but from joy within. I have no problem with that as that's where Christ resides if we are to know total contentment. Dr. Seuss' How the Grinch Stole Christmas is acceptable movie-going fare, but if you find yourself stuck at home on a frosty December night, may I suggest a video party for the entire family? 20 years ago, Hollywood top comic broke box office record as Christmas' biggest movie star. Universal's The Grinch, directed by Ron Howard and starring Jim Carrey, may just be one of the worst films ever associated with those three respective filmmakers. Ironically, I would argue it contained one of Jim Carrey's best comic performances in that he was utterly unrecognizable in body and soul and leaned into the drama as much as allowed. As for Howard, who's not great hellbilly elegy debut on Netflix, today he has made so many movies of all size and scope that he is bound to miss how and then. But The Grinch is also one of Carey's and Howard's biggest domestic and global box office success. The blockbuster 2000 holiday hit stands out and an ahead of its time example of what is now the definite recipe for theatrical success. It featured a massive movie star playing an incredibly popular and marquee character, which means it didn't matter if the movie has any good. In that sense, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, normally just refers to as The Grinch, was a unique blockbuster package. It started one of the biggest movie stars in Hollywood, one Jim Carrey as the Grinch, one of the more cognizable and beloved family-friendly fantasy character in pop culture. We can debut whether Kevin Costner playing Robin Hood in Prince of the Thief, following Field of Dreams and Dances with Wolves qualifies, but that's probably the only comparison where the star and IP may have been on equal ground. Due to Batman, of course, even if Michael Keaton was never as big as Costner or Carey, and Nicholson, who played the Joker, was a star back before opening weekends were a thing. The Grinch would arrive in November 2006, year after Carey became an overnight Hollywood sensation via three comic smash hits. After years on in living color, he arrived at a bankable phase on the poster movie star thanks to his triple whammy of 1994, namely Ice Ventura, Pet Detective, 107 million worldwide, The Mask, 350 million, and Dumb and Dumb, 247 million. He would follow that up with supporting role in Batman Forever as Edward Nygma, the riddle which would help push Leo Sokomar's action superhero sequel to a then record 53 million opening. And 25 years ago this month he would open as Ventura when nature calls to an eye-popping 38 million all by himself, an early example of a breakout comedy sequel and the biggest non-summer opening ever at the time. It would earn $212 million worldwide, and the next 4 years would have their ups. Nonetheless, despite mixed reviews, the allure of Jim Carrey as the Grinch in a live-action revamp of a beloved book animated special was an unbeatable combo. The first teaser, which debuted with Mission Impossible 2 in May of 2000, which almost played like a horror film, didn't hurt although the trailer was more standard. Caddy Fair, the film earned 55 million over its debut weekend. That was a 3.53x weekend multiplier. That's good even for a kid flick, and the fifth biggest opening weekend and the biggest for a non-sequel at the time. Oh, and paralleled by solid word of mouth, it would earn another 52 million in its second Friday Sunday weekend, scoring a bigger second weekend gross than the Pantomimic 51 million from a 64 million launch. It would earn 73 million over the Wednesday and Sunday Thanksgiving weekend and would drop by just 5.4%. There was one November release that was unremarkable that holiday week, and it was not Mr. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable or Disney 102 Dalmatian. It was a Christmas miracle cause Grinch are strong as hell. It would gross 260 million domestic and 345 million worldwide. Just go most Christmas hits and open in November and make most of their money in North America. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. The Grinch aka How the Grinch Stole Christmas has merged as the most successful film of 2000 in the United States. Surely, a month after it went on general release, the latest figure that have been styled show Universal Christmas Fable trumpeting its nearest rival. Paramount's Mission Impossible 2 by slender but decisive margin, as well as scoring a major victory for Universal. The film is also seen as a vindication for star Jimmy Carrey, whose bankability had started to be questioned after the poor box office performance of his previous two pictures, Man on the Moon and Me, Myself and Irene. Buried beneath pea green prosthetic, the actor starred in the title role as a crumbinously creature, a sort of cross between Scrooge and Oscar the Grouch, who attempt to substitute the Christmas of a fairy tale township. Despite lukewarm reviews, Ron Howard film, which marks Hollywood's first stab at the stories of children author Dr. Seuss, has effectively monopolized the Christmas family market on both sides of the Atlantic. In the 33 days since its release in the US, The Grinch cracked up an antagonist $216 million, knocking it ahead of the Tom Cruise action thriller Mission Impossible 1 2, which amassed $250 15 over a 4-month period. Other top crossers from the year include The Perfect Storm, Toy Story 2, and X-Men. Due to the Grinch end of year release date, the film's success looks set to spill over into the first month of the new year. So, Carey would not wind up with the biggest film of 2001 as well. Dr. Seuss' How the Grinch Stole Christmas is the movie directed by Don Howard, produced by Brian Grazer, screenplay by Jeffrey Prince and Peter Seisman, based on How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss, narrated by Anthony Hopkins. Dr. Seuss' How the Christmas, promoted theatrically as The Grinch, is a 2000 American family comedy Christmas film from Universal Pictures and Imagine Entertainment based on the 1957 story of the same name by Dr. Seuss. It was the first Dr. Seuss book to be adapted into a full length feature film because the film is based on the children's picture book. Many additions had to be made to the storyline to bring it up to feature length, including some information about the backstory of the titular character. Most of the reams used in the book were used in the film, though some were slightly changed and new reams were put in as well. The film was directed by Ron Howard, produced by Howard and Brian Grazer, and starring Jim Carrey, Geoffrey Tambor, Christine Baranski, Bill Avery, Molly Shannon, and introducing Taylor Momsen as Cindy Lou Who. The film spent 4 weeks as the number one film in the United States. The Grinch is the highest grossing holiday film of the all time with $345 million worldwide. It won the Academy Award for Best Makeup and was also nominated for Best Art Direction and Best Costume Design. The plot of the movie is that all the Who's down in the Whoville enjoy celebrating Christmas with much happiness and joy, except for the cynical and misanthropic Grinch played by Jim Carrey, who hatefully despises Christmas and the host with great wrath and occasionally puts dangerous and harmful practical jokes on them. As a result, no one likes or cares for him. Meanwhile, 6 years old Cindy Lou, played by Taylor Momsen, believes everyone is missing the point about Christmas by being more concerned about the gifts and festivities. Cindy Lou eventually learns that the Grinch is real and becomes interested in his history. She asks everyone that they know about him and soon discovers that he has a tragic past. The Grinch actually arrived in Whoville by mistake when he was a baby and was adopted by two elderly sisters, although the showed some seductive tendencies as a child. He was rather timid and not the cruel, selfish person he would become. He was ridiculed by his classmates, particularly by August Mayhew, Geoffrey Tambor, the current mayor of Whoville, because of his appearances, with the exception of Martha Mayhew, Christine Baranski, who was courted by both the Grinch and Mayhew. One Christmas season, he made a gift for Martha but attempted to shave his face, cutting himself, and when the school saw his face covered with shaving tape the next morning, they laughed at him. He lost his temper, went on rampage, and ran away to live on Mid Crumpet. After he left, Martha saw the gift he made and was disheartened. Cindy Lou, touched by the story, decided to make the Grinch the main participation of the Wobulation, to the great displeasure of Mayor Mayhew, who reluctantly agreed after prayer from the townspeople, who have been warned by Cindy Lou's casual spirit. When Cindy Lou goes to Mr. Crumpet and offers an invitation to the Grinch, he turns her down. He graciously changes his mind, however, to the promise of an award, the presence of Martha at the celebration, and the chance to upset the mayor, just as the Grinch is enjoying himself and is almost won over. May, who gives him an electric shaver as a present, reminding him of his humiliation at school. May, who then asks Martha to marry him, promising her a new car and returns, discusses the Grinch to openly berate the host for thinking the Christmas is about gift that they will just dispose for later in the hopes of making them too ashamed to celebrate the holiday. He then goes on to ruin the party by burning the Christmas tree with a flamethrower. When he discovered that his attack was not to remove the spirit of Christmas from the house, the Grinch instead concocts a plan to steal all of their presents while they are sleeping. Creating a Santa Seuss and sleigh, the Grinch flies around for a while, stealing all of the Who's Christmas gift. He is almost discovered by Cindy Lou, but coconuts a lie that allows him to get away. The next day, the Who's discover that Grinch scheme and May who denotes Cindy Lou as the root of his catastrophic disaster. However, her father, Lulu, who finally stands up to him and reminds everyone that they still have the Christmas spirit and that the principal meaning of Christmas is to spend it with family and friends. The people expect his speech and begin to sing, hoping that the change of mood would inspire the Grinch. Cindy Lou goes to Mr. Crumpet to find him. The Grinch reveals that he intends to push the stolen kit off the top of the mountain after he hears the host crying. However, instead of crying, he hears the joyful singing of the host. Infuriated about the failure of his plan, the Grinch has an epiphany about what Christmas is really about, not material gift, but spending time with loved ones. An insight that profound touches him and causes his heart to grow to three times its original size. When the slide full of stolen gift begins to go over the edge of the cliff, the Grinch desperately tries to save them to no avail. However, when he realizes Cindy Lou has come to wish him a Merry Christmas and is in danger of falling off the cliff with the sleigh, the Grinch finds enough strength to lift the sleigh, the gifts, and Cindy Lou to safety. After a long descent down Mr. Crump, the Grinch returns to Whoville with Cindy and the gifts. He confesses to the burglary and apologizes to his action toward the host, who recoiled with the Grinch. Martha turns down Mayhew's proposal and decided that she would rather stay with the Grinch instead. The redeemed Grinch starts a new life with the host, commemorating the Christmas feast with them in the cave. The cast is Jim Carrey as the Grinch, a green creature who hatefully despises Christmas, and the host of a while. It is revealed in his origin story that he started to hate Christmas after his school classmate humiliated him when he tried to shave his face. Before Jim Carrey was cast to play the Grinch, Jack Nicholson, Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman, Tom Hanks, Tim Carey, and Eddie Murphy were briefly considered. Josh ran Evans as an 8-year-old Grinch, his humiliation at school by May, who is what drives him into a hatred of Christmas. Taylor Momsen as Cindy Lou, a young who who thinks that the Christmas spirit is while is lost. In the version she is 6 years old, versus in the book in 1957 and the TV special in 1966 by Chuck Jones, she was no more than 2. Illumination and Universal Comscat Corps. The Grinch opened with a whopping 66 million over the weekend and 78 million worldwide. That's a solid 3.52 domestic weekend multiplier, with only 3.33 of that weekend gross coming from the Thursday previous. For comparison, bigger overall numbers, notwithstanding Secret of Life of Pets and Minions earned 5% of their weekend gross on Thursday and nabbed over under 2.6s weekend multiplier. It says something about Illumination as a brand that 66 million Friday Sunday debit, the biggest ever sans inflation for a Christmas flick, is among their lowest opening weekend in terms of tickets sold over opening weekend. It's essentially tied with Despicable Me, The Bandit Charitable Stand, and the movie The by Dr. Seuss. The Grinch Stole Christmas is directed by Ron Howard. Dr. Seuss How the Grinch Stole Christmas, also known as The Grinch in the UK, is a 2000 holiday comedy drama fantasy musical film directed by Ron Howard and written by Jeffrey Price and Peter S. Means, based on the 1957 children's book by Dr. Seuss called How the Grinch Stole Christmas. The film was released by Universal Pictures and Imagine Entertainment on Friday 17 November 2000. It was the first Dr. Seuss book to be adapted into a full-length feature film. Because the film is based on the children's book, many additions were made to the storyline to bring it up to feature length, including some information about the backstory of the title character and reworking the story's minor character, the Grinch, as a main character. Most of the rhymes that were used in the book were also used in the film. Some of the lines were to some degree changed, and several new rhymes were put in. The film also brought some music and character elements such as the Grinch green skin tone that originated in the 1966 animated television holiday special How the Grinch Stole Christmas. The film was produced by Howard and Brian Grazer and starring Jim Carrey, Geoffrey Tambor, and others, and introducing Taylor Momsen as Cindy Lou Who. The film receives mixed box office review from critics but was a box office success, spending 4 weeks at one in the United States and grossing $260 million in the United States and over 345 million worldwide, becoming the second highest grossing holiday film of all time, with Home Alone being the first. It won the Academy Award for Best Makeup and was also nominated for Best Art Direction and Best Costume Design. The story follows the Grinch, a bad tempered green monster attempting to steal every Christmas present from the Who's down in Whoville until a little girl named Cindy Lou, who sees the good in him and sets out to reform him. The people in Whoville enjoy celebrating Christmas with much happiness and joy, except the Grinch, who hatefully resents Christmas and the Who's. He occasionally pulls dangerous and harmful practical jokes on them with vengeance. As a result, no one likes or cares for the Grinch. Meanwhile, a 6-year-old girl named Cindy Lou thinks that everyone is missing the point about Christmas by being more concerned about the gifts and festivities. After her two brothers are scared off by the Grinch when they trespass on his domain, and she herself has a face-to-face encounter with the Grinch at the post office, which he reluctantly saves her life, and Cindy Lou becomes interested in his history. She then asks everyone what they know about him and soon discovers that he has a tragic past. The Grinch arrived in Whoville when he was a baby and was adopted by two elderly women. Although he showed some sadness tendencies as a child, he was rather timid and not cruel as he would become. He was bullied by his classmates, particularly by August Mayhew, who grew up to be mayor of Whoville because of his appearances, with the exception of Martha Mayhew, whom both the Grinch and August had feeling for. One Christmas season, when he was 8, the Grinch made a gift for Martha but attempted to shave his face after being made fun of for having a beard, cutting himself by accident. When his classmates saw his face covered with shaving tape the next morning, led by August, they ridiculed him, calling him a hack job due to the Grinch intentionally cutting himself in the process. He lost his temper, trashed the classroom, and ran away to live on a mountain north of Whoville. Cindy Lou, touched by the story, decided to make the Grinch the main participant of the Whobbleation, much to great displeasure of Mayor Mayhew, who reluctantly agrees after pressure from the townspeople who have been warned by Cindy Lou's generous spirit. When Cindy Lou goes to Mount Crumpet and offers an invitation to the Grinch, he turns her down. He gradually changes his mind due to the promise of an award, the presence of Martha at the celebration, and the chance to upset the mayor. Just as the Grinch is enjoying himself, Mayor Mayhew gives him an electric shaver as a present, reminding him of his awful humiliation at school. Augustus then asks Martha to marry him, promising her a new car in return. In response, the Grinch berates the host and seasons Christmas, claiming that the holiday is only about gifts that they will just dispose of later, in the hopes of making them too ashamed to celebrate the holiday. The Grinch then goes on to ruin the party by burning the Christmas tree with a makeshift flamethrower, but his action proved to be fruitless as the Who's have a spare tree with the Grinch sees them erect before he leaves. Mayor May, who then harshly scolds Cindy Lou for inviting the Grinch, making her feel ashamed. The Grinch, knowing that his attack has failed to remove the Who's Christmas spirit, instead concocts a plan to steal all of their presents while they are sleeping. Creating a Santa suit and sleigh with his own dog Max as a reindeer, the Grinch arrives at Whoville, stealing all of the Who's Christmas gift. He is almost discovered by Cindy Lou, but lies to her in order to get away. On Christmas morning, the Who's discover the Grinch scheme and the mayor blames Cindy Lou for the whole disaster. However, her father, Lulu, who the Whoville postmaster family stands up to the mayor, having had enough for his attitude, and reminds everyone they still have the Christmas spirit. The one thing that doesn't come for a store, and that the true meaning of Christmas is spending it with family and friends, and not about the gifts that contents are the fancy lights. The people expect his words and begin to sing, hoping that the change of mood would inspire the Grinch. Cindy Lou goes to Mount Crumpet to find him. The Grinch reveals that he intends to push the stolen gift off the top of the mountain after he hears the Who's crying. However, instead of crying, he hears the joyful singing of the Who's. Infuriated over the failure of his plan, the Grinch has a epiphany about what Christmas is really about. Not material gift, but spending time with loved ones, an insight that profoundly touches him and causes his heart to grow to three times its original size. When the sleigh full of stolen gifts begin to go over the edge of the cliff, the Grinch desperately tries to save them to no avail. However, when he realizes that Cindy Lou has come to wish him a Merry Christmas and is in danger of falling off the cliff with the sleigh, the Grinch finds enough strength to lift the sleigh, the gift, and Cindy Lou to safety. After a long descent down Mounted Crumpet, the Grinch returned to Whoville with Max, Cindy, and the gifts. He confesses to the Pockerly, tearfully apologizes for his action towards the host, and surrenders himself to the police as they arrive. But the host reconcile with him, much to Mayor Mayhew's dempsey. Martha turns down Augustus' proposal and decided she would rather stay with the Grinch instead. The reformed Grinch, along with Max, begins a new life with the host, commemorating the Christmas feast with them in the cave. The production of the movie. On September 26, 1999, it was announced that Ron Howard would direct and produce a 2000 American fantasy comedy Christmas film titled How the Grinch Stole Christmas, or Dr. Seuss How the Grinch Stole Christmas, promoted theatrically as The Grinch with Brian Grazer and also with the budget of 123 million based on the 1957 story of the same name by Dr. Seuss, which would be released in cinema on November 17, 2000. Joffrey Prince and Peter S. Seidman would write the film. It was also announced that the film would star Jim Carrey, who plays the title character, Josh Ryan Evans, Taylor Momsen, Geoffrey Tambor, Ben Bachbember, Christian Brensky, and others. The movie. James Harbour would compose the music for the movie. Imagine Entertainment co-produced the film. Critical reception. Rotten Tomato gave the film with a rating 53% with the critical consensus reading. Jim Carrey shine as the Grinch. Unfortunately, it's not enough to save the movie. You had be better off watching the TV cartoon or Metacritic. The film has a score of 46 out of 100 based on 29 critics. indicating mixed or average reviews. Roger Ebert criticized the film, referring it as a dunkery, white movie about a soul creature who lives on top of the mountain of garbage. Scares children is meat of his dog and steals everyone Christmas present and saying there should be a jollier production design and a brighter look overall. It's not a fun movie. The movie was influential enough for Universal Parks and Resorts to create version of Whoville, one at Zeus Landing and the other in USH. Here you can say hey to the Grinch and the Who's and get your picture taken with them. Even foods from the movie are available for consumption in these areas, such as Who Hash and roast beef. Dr. Seuss, How the Grinch Stole Christmas opened at number 1 with a weekend gross of 55 million for an average of 17 from 3,127 theater and staying at number 1 for a total of 4 weeks. It closed on April 30, 2001 after 5 months with a final gross of 260 million in the United States and Canada and an additional gross of 85 in the other territories for a total worldwide average of $345 million. The film garnered 3 Academy Award nominations including Best Costume Design and Best Art Direction and Normandy Rick Baker and Gally Rowers ran win the Academy Award for Best Makeup. At the Golden Globes, Carey was nominated for the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor, Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, losing the award to George Clooney for Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? The film won a Stan Award for Best Music, however, it was also nominated for 2000 Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Remake or Sequel and Worst Screenplay but lost to Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2 and Battlefield Earth respectively. The film was released on VHS and DVD on November 20, 2001. Blu-ray DVD comedic pack was released on October 13, 2009. Open line inside a snowflake like the one on your sleeve. There happened a story you must see to believe. How the Grinch Stole Christmas is the live movie of the 2000. If there is a Christmas story that you are probably familiar with, it is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. In this story, we are taken to a town called Whoville, where the townspeople are called Who's. These Whoviline citizen also seems to be of a good cheer, which really irritates a green evil, small-hearted Grinch who is the antagonist of the story. The Grinch scheme a plan discusses himself as Santa Claus and his dog Max as a reindeer. In this scheme, he comes into Whoville in the night hours to take all the things that represent Christmas. After he has taken everything representing Christmas from the town, he waits until morning to hear the response of the Whoville citizen. How the Grinch Stole Christmas is a 2000 movie, and what was the ending of the movie? This one doozy folk throughout How the Grinch Stole Christmas. We are led to believe that the Grinch is this horrible, nasty creature who will never change, and that he managed to carry out his equally horrible, nasty plan to destroy Christmas for the host. Though we don't know them personally, the Who seems like a rather nice group of people, and we are pretty positive that the Grinch is going to make them miserable come Christmas Day. For crying out loud, that's what the title says is not it. Ah, but the title is quite misleading, and it turns out that what we have on our hands here Fog is a classic tale of a nasty, no good character being redeemed during the holidays. If you have seen on a local state production of A Christmas Carol, you will have undoubtedly thought, I wonder if this scrub I mean Grinch character really stays nasty and mean throughout the book. The ending certains the Grinch heart triple in size and join the Who's for Christmas winner in simply the cherry on top of the tale of the Grinch redemption. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew three sizes that day, and the minute his heart did it feel quite so tight, he wished with his Lord through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food and the feast, and he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast goose, the story, and as all good story end with foods. How the Grinch Stole Christmas is 2000. The Dancel of Offline walk on Christmas morning to find that the Grinch has stolen off all of the holiday strapping. The mayor blames the disaster on Sandy Lou, who for convincing them to invite the Grinch to the Wobulation. The outcome of which inspired him to commit the theft, but her dad stands up to the mayor and points out that everyone but her had lost touch with the holiday true spirit and that the stolen things are just that, things. The Grinch is moved by the Who's unwillingness to let his action get them down, and his heart grows three sizes. However, the slate upon which all the treffen have been stacked started to differ off the mountain. The Grinch struggled to pull it to safety and is tempted to let it fall. It says toys until he realized Cindy is on top. Having come to check on him, he managed to lift the entire sleigh up over his head, and soon they and Max, the dog, are headed back to Whoville with a lot. The Grinch arrives and apologizes for what he did, and the Who's decide not to punish him. Moreover, Martha May decided to turn down the mayor's wedding proposal to be with him. The Grinch joins in with the singing, and later everyone enjoys the feast of roast beast, covered by him, of course, at his lairs. The Grinch Stole the Christmas tells the story of the hateful and bitter Grinch, a Christmas hating creature who lives in a cave on empty ground above a small town called Whoville. While nobody knows why the Grinch detests Christmas so much, the narrator possesses that it is because his heart is the size is too small. By contrast, the Who's of Whoville are kind-hearted creatures who probably absolutely love Christmas. The festive season is their favorite time of year, and they have very large and noisy celebration in their town. As the Grinch becomes more and more annoyed with the noise, he devises a plan to steal Christmas. He dresses up as Santa Claus and sneaks into the homes of the Who's, taking their presents, foods, and even their Christmas trees. In the middle of his scheme, he meets a little girl named Candy Lou who shows the Grinch compassion and kindness.